Thousands of Americans live in unsafe, unsanitary homes with mice, mold, electrical hazards. They don't have the money to fix the problems. Neither does their landlord.
The air conditioner from upstairs when our unit leaks, I get all the water.
Karen Angelin pays $400 a month in rent.
You look up there, I don't know what I'm growing out my ceiling.
Her landlord can't seem to stop the vine growing from her bedroom ceiling.
Does it grow back?
Yes, it grows back.
On a dangerously hot and humid South Louisiana afternoon, Angelin struggles for relief.
There's no way you could cool these rooms because there's no unit. And that room is on side of a hot water heater, so that was even hotter.
Without AC, she bought window units, but her landlord only allows her to keep 2 in her 3-bedroom apartment.
I'm pretty clean, I'm pretty neat, I'm pretty prompt about how I care about where I live, even though it's inside of this building. You walk in, you be like, oh, well, she don't live like she live in a project, but we taking care of them as much as we can, but we found the units, they so old, we can't update them ourselves.
Her landlord, the federal government. Angelin lives in a public housing development. Last year, a HUD inspector gave her complex a failing inspection score, a 43 out of 100. That C means inspectors found life-threatening deficiencies. Among the serious findings, damaged roofs, exposed wires, and other electrical hazards. InvestigateTV analyzed federal records and found hundreds of public housing complexes across the country that year after year failed inspections. One reason why, a $50 billion backlog of needed repairs.
It's appalling and it's unacceptable. People shouldn't have to live that way, especially when the federal government is supporting that housing.
We found housing complexes from Alabama to Virginia, the Carolinas to Indiana. Nearly every state, people living in deplorable conditions, with bugs and mice, without smoke detectors or working windows.
If something breaks, it's broke.
Robert Morris worked hard for a living. The longtime school custodian retired to a public housing development in BOGALUSA, Louisiana. His public retirement check qualified him for public housing. Morris lives in Sunset Acres. In the past decade, the housing complex has failed 5 of its 6 inspections. Morris says nothing gets fixed because there's no staff to do the fixing.
They done laid all the maintenance men off.
In the last decade, InvestigateTV found 365 housing complexes across the country have failed at least half of their inspections. A score under 60 is considered failing. The worst, a complex in Hoboken, New Jersey. It scored an 8.
Much of public housing is for disabled people and the elderly, and we just don't invest the way we should as a country.
HUD has a plan to fix it. The Obama administration started a program called RAD, short for Rental Assistance Demonstration. It's a public-private partnership. Private developers take over the complexes and agree to fix them up, making money with tax credits and rent collection.
I think a lot of the problem has been that the federal government keeps throwing money at the problem and getting the same results. We ought to try something different.
Critics admit some RAD conversions have been successful, but even the federal government has concerns, detailed in a recent Government Accountability Office report that questioned HUD's oversight of the program and its impact on tenants. Our analysis of the program also raised questions. Remember, the goal of the program is for private money to fix up public housing. But our investigation found 45% of the units moving to the RAD program have no planned expenditures on renovations or repairs.
I don't know how you can do RAD without injecting money into the upkeep and the improvement of the structure.
HUD declined our request for an on-camera interview, but did tell us by phone new owners have promised to make repairs as needed. The program started with 20,000 units. Congress recently authorized another 450,000 for RAD conversion. HUD predicts nearly 60% of their housing stock could be converted to RAD. But our investigation has found the worst of the worst, at least 200 public housing complexes that chronically failed inspections are not on the list for RAD conversion. Experts say it would be too costly for developers to recoup their investment.
HUD also has to address the remaining public housing stock that continues to experience severe maintenance repair needs.
I was like, ugh.
Takedra Gibson's complex repeatedly fails inspections.
We looking dead at
As you can see, a burnt down apartment.
Among the problems, her bathroom, which is filled with mold.
It's real bad in the bathroom. And I believe it's in the walls too. And all they did was just paint. They paint over it. They paint over everything.
I'm sad that our residents have to live in that kind of condition now and walk out that front door and look at the empty units with roofs missing or caving in.
Joseph Page runs the housing authority that oversees Gibson's complex.
There's only so much painting and make ready that you can do to keep these units in good shape.
He says without RAD and an influx of money, his complex would eventually deteriorate. Right now, half of the units are uninhabitable. Some have been reduced to rubble.
We would continue to have housing stock in bad state of repair, and in fact, some of those housing units would probably have to be torn down.
Nobody don't have no business living like this.
Sandra Stipe lives in another substandard complex. She's paying $363 a month. Every flush of her unit's only toilet is a bizarre two-step process.
The only way the toilet fills up is if you turn the sink on. Otherwise, what happens?
It don't flush.
Unless Congress decides to invest, thousands of Americans will continue to live like this, some afraid to publicly complain.
I know they're going to send me an eviction notice, but it is what it is.
Units intended to help many of the elderly, disabled, and working poor, some built nearly 80 years ago. Pictures you may see in a third world country, instead in our communities and government-owned properties, the result of years of underfunding and neglect.
For the first time in 8 years, Congress increased the amount of funding going to public housing repairs. HUD received $2.6 billion. That amounts to $2,600 per unit.